The diplomatic shuttle cut through the darkness of space, its engines humming softly as it approached the massive structure hanging in the void. Kepler 7 station rotated slowly against the backdrop of distant stars, its rings glowing with lights from countless civilizations. Inside the passenger compartment, Ambassador Patricia Morrison stared through the viewport, her fingers drumming nervously against the armrest. "We'll be docking in 15 minutes, Ambassador," the pilot called back. Patricia nodded but said nothing. Her mind was already racing through the challenges ahead. The Vrek Empire had called this emergency summit with barely 3 days' notice. That alone was suspicious. In her 12 years as Earth's chief diplomat, she'd learned that rushed meetings usually meant trouble. Across from her sat Warren Blake, a mountain of a man who somehow made the cramped shuttle seat look like a child's toy. His gray eyes never stopped moving, constantly scanning their surroundings even though they were alone in the cabin. He'd been Patricia's bodyguard for 5 years now, and she'd learned to trust his instincts completely. "You're worried," Warren said. It wasn't a question. "The Vrek don't do anything without a reason," Patricia replied. "They've been pushing for trade restrictions against Earth for months. Now suddenly they want an emergency vote? Something's wrong." Warren's jaw tightened. "I don't like it either. Too fast, too aggressive. Feels like they're trying to catch us off balance." "That's exactly what they're doing," Patricia said. She pulled up her tablet, scrolling through intelligence reports. "Our sources say Prime Minister Theric himself is attending. He never leaves Vrek Prime for these meetings." Warren leaned forward, his expression darkening. "The head of their government is coming personally? That's not normal protocol." "No, it's not." Patricia set down her tablet and met his eyes. "Which means whatever they're planning, it's big." The shuttle shuddered as it entered the station's docking sequence. Through the viewport, Patricia could see other vessels already moored to the massive structure. The organic-looking bioships of the Vrek stood out among the more conventional designs. There were at least 20 of them, far more than necessary for a simple diplomatic mission. "They brought an entire fleet," Warren observed, his hand unconsciously moving closer to the weapon at his hip. The docking bay was chaos. Hundreds of beings from dozens of different species crowded the enormous space. Patricia recognized the insectoid Vrek immediately, 7 feet tall with chitinous armor that gleamed under the artificial lights, their compound eyes reflecting everything in fractured images. There were also crystalline luminar beings that chimed musical notes as they moved, slug-like Horthans leaving slime trails behind them, and countless others she couldn't identify. An automated guide sphere floated down to meet them as they descended the shuttle ramp. "Ambassador Morrison, you are assigned to Suite 7 Alpha. The opening session begins in 2 hours. Please follow." Warren stayed close to Patricia as they walked through the crowd. His training was obvious in the way he moved, always positioning himself between her and potential threats, his eyes tracking every movement around them. Several Vrek delegates turned to watch them pass, their antennae twitching in what Patricia recognized as hostile curiosity. The diplomatic suite was located in the station's outer ring, where gravity generators maintained Earth-normal conditions. It was a modest space with a conference area, sleeping quarters, and reinforced doors that could seal in emergencies. "I'm checking for surveillance devices," Warren announced immediately, pulling out a small scanner. "Standard procedure." While he swept the room, Patricia accessed the station's network. The summit agenda appeared on her screen and her stomach dropped. 15 different species had signed onto the Vrek proposal. 15 votes against Earth's current trading practices. If the resolution passed, Earth would be economically isolated from half the known galaxy. "Room's clean," Warren said. "No bugs, no explosives, no tampering. They actually followed security protocols for once. That's something at least." Patricia showed him the vote count. "Look at this. They've already got the numbers they need." Warren studied the screen, his expression grim. "Then why call the summit at all? If they've already won, why not just vote and be done with it?" "Because they want it to look legitimate," Patricia said slowly, understanding dawning. "They want Earth to be present when we're condemned. Makes it seem like we had a chance to defend ourselves." A chime sounded from Warren's communicator. He listened for a moment, then his face went hard. "The Vrek want a pre-summit meeting. Just you and Theric. They're calling it a clarification session, before tomorrow's formal vote." Patricia stood, smoothing her formal jacket. "Actually, that might work in our favor. If I can talk to Theric directly, maybe we can negotiate before this goes to a full vote." "Or it's a trap," Warren said flatly. "Ambassador, everything about this situation screams setup. I strongly recommend declining." "I can't," Patricia said. If there's even a small chance we can resolve this diplomatically, I have to take it. That's my job, Warren. He moved between her and the door. Fine. But we do this my way. I go in first, I check the room, and at the first sign of trouble we leave. No discussion. Agreed. They made their way through Kepler 7's winding corridors. The station was a maze of passages designed to accommodate wildly different alien physiologies. Some hallways had low gravity for floating species. Others were filled with methane for beings that breathed different atmospheres. The section leading to the meeting room was thankfully standard environment. 4 Vrek soldiers flanked the conference room door. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall, their segmented armor covered in ceremonial blades that were definitely sharp enough to be functional weapons. Their compound eyes tracked Patricia and Warren's approach with unsettling precision. Ambassador Morrison, one clicked in heavily accented Standard Galactic. You may enter. Your human must remain outside. My bodyguard accompanies me everywhere, Patricia said firmly. That's non-negotiable. The Vrek soldiers shifted, their antennae quivering with obvious agitation. For several tense seconds nobody moved. Then a voice came from inside the room. Let them both enter. We have nothing to hide. The doors slid open. Warren went through first, his body language radiating controlled alertness. The conference room was medium-sized with a long table dominating the center. Prime Minister Theric sat at the far end, flanked by 3 advisors. 2 more Vrek bodyguards stood against the walls. The room had only one exit, the door they just entered. The windows overlooked the station's interior, but they were sealed with transparent aluminum, reinforced and unbreakable. Patricia took a seat across from Theric while Warren positioned himself behind her, standing. From there he could see everything, every Vrek in the room, the door, the windows, and any potential threat to Patricia. Ambassador Morrison, Theric began, his mandibles clicking in what might have been a smile. Thank you for meeting with me. I hoped we might speak honestly before tomorrow's formalities. I appreciate the opportunity, Prime Minister, Patricia replied, keeping her voice professional. Though I'm concerned about the nature of this summit. Earth has broken no treaties and violated no agreements. These proposed restrictions seem extreme. Theric's compound eyes glittered. Extreme? Your species has expanded into 17 new systems in just 10 years. You've established trade partnerships that undercut markets we've controlled for centuries. You move through our galaxy like parasites, consuming resources without respect for those who were here first. Patricia kept her expression neutral despite the insult. Earth operates within all established galactic commerce laws. Our expansion has been peaceful and our trade practices transparent. If the Vrek Empire has specific complaints, we're willing to address them through proper diplomatic channels. Proper channels? Theric repeated, venom dripping from every syllable. Your proper channels have allowed humans to spread like a disease. But that ends tomorrow, Ambassador. The Council will vote to restrict your activities, to confine your species to your original territories. You will accept this or face consequences. Warren noticed one of the advisors reaching beneath the table. His hand moved fractionally closer to his weapon. But the Vrek only pulled out a data pad. Still, Warren's instinct screamed warning. Something was very wrong about this meeting. And if Earth refuses these restrictions? Patricia asked calmly. Then you will be declared a rogue state, Theric said. Subject to sanctions, blockades, and military action if necessary. The data pad activated, projecting a holographic display between them. Images materialized in the air, shipping manifests, transfer records, communication logs. All bore Earth government seals. All showed weapons shipments to known Vrek rebel factions. All completely, utterly fake. Patricia's eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. This is fabricated. Earth would never arm insurgents against a council member? Theric interrupted, his mandibles spreading in a clear expression of satisfaction. The evidence tells a different story, Ambassador. Your own signature appears on 17 different authorization documents. Tomorrow, when I present this to the full council, you will be arrested for crimes against galactic peace. And Earth's reputation will be destroyed forever. Warren's combat instincts kicked into overdrive. The other Vrek in the room were shifting positions, no longer bothering to appear casual. This wasn't a negotiation. This was an ambush. Ambassador Morrison has full diplomatic immunity, Warren said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The council cannot arrest her based on forged documents. Diplomatic immunity can be revoked by majority vote, Theric replied smoothly. which will happen the moment the Council sees this evidence. Of course, unfortunate accidents can happen on a space station. So many dangerous systems, so many ways for someone to get hurt before any formal proceedings begin. Patricia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is outrageous. Those documents are forgeries and you know it. Then prove it, Theric challenged. You have until tomorrow morning when the vote occurs. If you can. Warren's hand was now openly resting on his weapon. We're leaving. Right now. The Vrek bodyguards moved to block the door. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Theric said, his voice filled with false sympathy. Station security has been alerted to the evidence against Ambassador Morrison. They're coming to place her in protective custody. For her own safety, naturally. Through the door, Warren could hear footsteps. Multiple sets, moving fast and purposefully. His tactical mind calculated in fractions of a second. 6 Vrek in the room, unknown number in the corridor, 1 exit, 1 person to protect. The odds didn't matter. He had a job to do. Ambassador, behind me. Now, Warren said quietly, drawing his weapon and aiming it at the nearest Vrek. Prime Minister, you're making a serious mistake. The only mistake, Theric hissed, rising from his chair, was allowing humans into civilized space at all. The door burst open and station security flooded in, not just Vrek but multiple species, all wearing Kepler-7's neutral gray uniforms. The lead officer, a 4-armed Krell, held up a restraint device. Ambassador Patricia Morrison, you are detained pending investigation of charges brought by the Vrek Empire. Come peacefully. Patricia looked at Warren. In that single glance, she saw his military training crystallizing into absolute certainty. This wasn't politics. This wasn't even a frame job. This was an execution with legal paperwork. No, Warren said simply, his voice completely calm. She's not going anywhere. And with that single word, everything exploded into chaos. Warren moved before anyone else could react. His body shifted left, putting himself directly between Patricia and the advancing security forces. His weapon remained steady, aimed at the lead officer but not threatening, yet. Ambassador, back toward the door, Warren said quietly. Slowly. Patricia didn't argue. She'd seen Warren in action before and knew better than to question him when that tone entered his voice. She took 3 careful steps backward while Warren matched her movement, maintaining his position as a human shield. This is unlawful detention, Warren announced, his voice carrying across the room. Ambassador Morrison has full diplomatic immunity. You have no authority to arrest her without council approval, and no emergency session has been called. The Krell officer's 4 arms spread wide in what might have been a placating gesture. We have evidence of serious crimes. The immunity can be processed after she is secured. That's not how the law works and you know it, Warren replied. His eyes flicked to the Vrek soldiers, noting how they'd positioned themselves to cut off escape routes. This was coordinated. Planned. You move 1 step closer and I will consider it an act of aggression against Earth sovereignty. Theric's mandibles clicked with amusement. Your threats are meaningless, human. You are one. They are many. Mathematics is not on your side. Warren's lip curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. You'd be surprised what one human can do when properly motivated. The first officer made his move, lunging forward with restraint cuffs. Warren's response was instantaneous and brutal. He sidestepped the lunge, grabbed the Krell's extended arm, and used the alien's own momentum to flip him into 2 of the Vrek soldiers. All 3 crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs and chitinous armor. Run! Warren shouted to Patricia. They burst through the door together, Warren firing his neural disruptor behind them. The weapon sent out pulses of energy designed to disrupt nervous systems without permanent damage. 2 more security officers dropped, their bodies convulsing as their neural pathways temporarily shut down. The corridor outside was chaos. More security forces were arriving from both directions, but Warren had already mapped every exit during their walk to the meeting. He grabbed Patricia's arm and pulled her toward a maintenance access panel. Can you override the lock? He asked, firing another shot down the corridor. Patricia's fingers flew across the panel's interface. Give me 10 seconds. You've got 5, Warren said, watching security forces close in from both ends of the hallway. He fired twice more, dropping an insectoid officer and forcing the others to take cover. 4, 3. The panel beeped and slid open. Warren shoved Patricia through first, then followed, sealing the door behind them. They were in the station's maintenance tunnels now, narrow passages designed for repair drones, not people. But narrow worked in Warren's favor. It created a choke point. This way, Patricia gasped, already moving. The diplomatic suite is 2 sections over. If we can get there, the doors are reinforced. We can hold them off. They ran through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing off metal walls. Behind them, Warren could hear cutting tools beginning to work on the sealed door. They had maybe 2 minutes before security broke through. They emerged from another maintenance hatch directly into the corridor leading to their suite. Warren's tactical mind was already working. The corridor was long and straight, another choke point. The suite's doors were military-grade, designed to withstand everything short of heavy explosives. If they could reach it, they'd have a defensible position. Go! Warren commanded, and they sprinted. They made it inside with seconds to spare. Warren slammed his hand on the emergency lock, and blast doors slid into place with a heavy thunk. The suite's walls were reinforced with the same transparent aluminum as starship hulls. Strong enough to hold. For a while at least. Computer, activate emergency protocols, Warren said. Authorization Blake 77 Delta. Transmit distress signal to Earth Command on all frequencies. Include current situation and request immediate assistance. A synthetic voice responded. Emergency protocols activated. Transmitting on all available channels. Warning, nearest Earth vessel is 19 days distant at maximum speed. 19 days, Patricia breathed. We can't hold out for 19 days. We don't need to hold for 19 days, Warren said, already moving furniture to create defensive positions. We just need to hold long enough for you to find proof that this is a setup. Those documents Theric showed us, they're fake. Which means somewhere in the VREC communications there's evidence of the real conspiracy. Patricia was already at her terminal, fingers flying across the interface. Their encryption is military grade. It could take hours to crack. Then we better make sure you have those hours. The first assault came 3 minutes later. Security forces tried to override the door locks using station authority codes. Warren had anticipated this and hardwired the controls to local power only. When that failed, they tried cutting through the blast doors with plasma torches. Warren watched through the door's security camera as sparks flew. They're committed. That's going to take them at least 20 minutes to cut through. He used the time to prepare. The suite had limited defensive options, but Warren was creative. He disabled the artificial gravity in the corridor outside using the suite's environmental controls. When security finally breached the door, they'd float helplessly while Warren remained anchored inside the gravity-enabled suite. Patricia worked frantically at her terminal, running decryption programs against VREC communication channels. I'm getting fragments. Something about mining operations and unauthorized extraction. But I need more time. You'll have it, Warren promised. The blast door finally gave way with a screech of tortured metal. Security forces pushed through, and immediately began floating as they hit the zero-gravity zone. Warren didn't hesitate. He fired his neural disruptor in controlled bursts, each shot perfectly aimed. Officers spun helplessly through the air as their nervous systems shut down. But more kept coming. They'd figured out the gravity trick and were using magnetic boots now, advancing slowly but steadily. Warren adjusted his tactics, targeting the magnetic seals and sending officers spinning away even as they tried to anchor themselves. I'm through the first encryption layer, Patricia called out. There's definitely something here about illegal mining. The VREC have been strip mining protected worlds in the outer sectors. If the Council found out, it would be enough to destroy their reputation, Warren finished. So they're destroying ours first. Classic misdirection. An explosion rocked the suite. Security had brought heavier weapons. Warren felt the wall crack behind him but held his position. The doorway was narrow enough that only 2 could enter at a time. Even with superior numbers, they had to funnel through his kill zone. He fought with brutal efficiency. A VREC soldier rushed through and Warren used the low gravity against him, redirecting the alien's charge into a wall with bone-crushing force. Illuminar being tried to use its crystalline body to deflect his shots, but Warren adjusted frequencies and the crystal shattered into harmless fragments. Minutes became an hour. Warren's arms ached from the constant firing. His neural disruptor was overheating, the cooling system struggling to keep up with sustained use. He'd gone through 3 power cells already and was on his 4th. But he held the line. 47 minutes, Patricia said suddenly. You've been fighting for 47 minutes straight. Warren grunted, firing twice more. Who's counting? I am. Because I just broke through their command-level encryption. Warren, this goes all the way to the top. Theric personally ordered the mining operations. They've extracted resources worth trillions from protected worlds. If this gets out, the Vrek Empire will face sanctions that could cripple their economy for decades. Can you prove it? I can broadcast it, Patricia said, her fingers already moving. If I send this to all council members simultaneously, Theric won't be able to suppress it. Another explosion. The suite's secondary wall was compromised now. Warren could see through the smoke that security was bringing up what looked like a battering ram. They were done being subtle. Do it now, Warren ordered. Because we're about to have company. Patricia hit the transmit button just as the battering rams smashed through the final wall. Security forces poured in, too many to stop. Warren fired until his weapon's power cell died, then dropped it and raised his hands. Ambassador Patricia Morrison, you are under arrest, the Krell officer began. No, a new voice interrupted. She is not. Everyone froze. Through the broken wall, a massive crystalline being floated into view. Warren recognized it immediately, Praxis, the council chairman. Behind him came security forces wearing different uniforms. Council guard, not station security. Chairman Praxis, Theric's voice crackled over the station's communication system. This is a station security matter. Your intervention is not required. On the contrary, Praxis replied, his crystalline body chiming with barely contained anger. Every council member has just received rather disturbing evidence of illegal mining operations conducted by the Vrek Empire. Operations that you personally authorized, Prime Minister. I believe we need to discuss who should actually be under arrest. Warren felt the tension drain from his body. 47 minutes of combat and they'd won. Not with superior numbers or firepower but with the truth. Patricia emerged from behind her terminal, disheveled but victorious. She met Warren's eyes and nodded once. He nodded back. They'd done their job. Now the council would do theirs. Patricia's fingers flew across the terminal, her eyes scanning lines of decrypted Vrek communications at impossible speed. Sweat dripped down her forehead despite the climate-controlled suite. Behind her, Warren continued fighting off the steady stream of security forces trying to breach their position. The sound of his neural disruptor firing had become almost rhythmic. I've got it, Patricia breathed, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Warren, I've got everything. The data sprawled across her screen in damning detail. Coordinates of protected worlds in the outer sectors. Mining equipment manifests. Extraction records showing resources worth trillions being illegally harvested. And there, in encrypted command files, direct orders from Prime Minister Theric himself authorizing the entire operation. The protected worlds, Patricia said, her voice growing stronger as she read. The Council designated them as off-limits 15 years ago because they contain rare evolutionary ecosystems. The Vrek have been strip mining them for the past 8 years. They've destroyed 3 entire planetary biospheres. Warren fired twice more, dropping 2 officers who tried to rush the breach simultaneously. Can you prove Theric ordered it? Better than that. I can prove he knew it was illegal and did it anyway. There are memos here discussing how to hide the operations from Council oversight. Patricia's hands shook as she accessed the broadcast protocols. If the Council sees this, the Vrek Empire will face sanctions that could destroy their economy for generations. Then send it, Warren said. Now. Patricia initiated the transmission sequence. The evidence package would go to all 73 Council members simultaneously, bypassing normal diplomatic channels entirely. It was a violation of protocol, but given that protocol had been used to frame her for crimes she didn't commit, she figured the Council would forgive the breach. Her finger hovered over the final confirmation button. Once I send this, there's no taking it back. The Vrek will know we have the evidence. They already know we're digging, Warren replied, ducking as a plasma bolt scorched the wall above his head. Send it before they decide to blow this whole section of the station to cover their tracks. Patricia pressed the button. For 3 seconds nothing happened. Then every communication terminal in the diplomatic suite lit up with incoming acknowledgement signals. Council members across the station were receiving the data package. Opening it. Reading the evidence of Vrek crimes. Theric's voice exploded over the suite's communication system, no longer smooth or controlled. Kill them. Kill them both now. The station security forces that had been maintaining a steady but measured assault suddenly pulled back. For a moment, Warren thought they were retreating. Then he saw what was really happening. The mixed-species security teams were being replaced by pure Vrek soldiers, and these weren't carrying non-lethal weapons. Warren, Patricia started. I see them, he said grimly. Get down behind the desk. Now. The Vrek assault was brutally direct. 6 soldiers charged through the breach simultaneously, firing plasma rifles designed to kill, not disable. Warren dove behind an overturned table as the first volley turned the wall behind him into molten slag. He couldn't use his neural disruptor against plasma-resistant armor. But Warren hadn't survived 2 decades in special forces by relying on just one weapon. He grabbed a piece of broken debris, a section of metal support beam, and used the suite's gravity differential to his advantage. The first Vrek soldier cleared the breach and Warren was already moving. He slid across the floor, low beneath the alien's line of fire, and swung the metal beam into the soldier's knee joint. Chitinous armor was strong but had weak points where segments connected. The Vrek went down with a screech, and Warren rolled away as plasma fire chewed up the floor where he'd been. 2 more Vrek pushed through. Warren triggered the environmental controls again, flooding the breach area with fire suppression foam. The thick chemical compound didn't hurt the Vrek but it blinded them. Warren moved through the foam like a ghost, his human eyes adapting faster than their compound vision. He struck precisely, joints, antennae, sensory organs, disabling without killing. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder and Warren hissed in pain. The burn went deep, searing through his uniform and into flesh. But he didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. Patricia was counting on him. 3 more Vrek entered. Warren was running out of space to maneuver. The suite was destroyed, furniture reduced to debris, walls cracked and melting from plasma fire. He grabbed a Vrek soldier's own weapon and used it as a club, the heavy rifle crushing another soldier's weapon arm. Patricia, how long until help arrives? Warren called out, blocking a strike from a Vrek blade with a piece of broken desk. Council guard is 3 minutes away, she shouted back. Can you hold that long? Warren looked at the 6 Vrek soldiers regrouping for another assault, then at the breach where more were gathering. His shoulder screamed agony. His ribs ached from where a Vrek fist had connected earlier. He was exhausted, running on pure adrenaline and stubborn human endurance. Yeah, he said. I can hold. The next 2 minutes were the longest of Warren's life. The Vrek came in waves trying to overwhelm him through sheer numbers. He fought with everything he had, military training, combat experience, and the raw survival instinct that Earth's deadly environment had bred into humanity over millions of years. He used pieces of the destroyed suite as improvised weapons. A cabinet door became a shield. A broken light fixture became a club. When a Vrek soldier got too close, Warren used his own body as a weapon, delivering strikes to vulnerable points with devastating precision. But he never killed. Even wounded, even fighting for his life and Patricia's, Warren maintained the discipline to disable rather than destroy. A broken limb stopped a soldier as effectively as a fatal wound. A blow to a sensory organ removed a threat without ending a life. The Vrek noticed. One soldier, his weapon arm useless, stared at Warren with something that might have been confusion. Why do you not kill us, human? You have the skill. We would kill you. Warren deflected another attack before answering. Because I'm better than you think I am. Patricia's terminal chimed urgently. Warren. The council is responding. Chairman Praxis is ordering an immediate ceasefire station-wide. Tell that to them, Warren grunted, throwing a Vrek soldier into 2 others. The answer came 30 seconds later. Council Guard forces appeared at the breach, weapons drawn but not firing. Leading them was Praxis himself, the massive crystalline being's body pulsing with anger. By council authority, all combat will cease immediately, Praxis announced, his voice resonating through the station's communication system. Vrek forces stand down or face charges of attempted murder of diplomatic personnel. The Vrek soldiers hesitated. For a moment, Warren thought they might actually continue the attack. Then reluctantly they lowered their weapons and backed away. Warren finally allowed himself to breathe. His shoulder throbbed viciously and he could feel blood soaking through his uniform. He did a quick mental count of the Vrek soldiers scattered around the destroyed suite, unconscious, injured but alive. 23. He'd fought 23 armed soldiers without killing a single one. Praxis floated into the suite, his crystalline eyes taking in the destruction. Ambassador Morrison, are you injured? Patricia emerged from behind the desk, her clothes torn but otherwise unharmed. I'm fine, Chairman. Thanks to Warren. And you, Mr. Blake? Praxis asked, his gaze focusing on Warren's burned shoulder. I'll live, Warren said simply. Indeed you will. And the galaxy will hear of what you've done here. Praxis gestured to the fallen Vrek soldiers. 23 attackers disabled. 0 fatalities. Remarkable restraint for someone fighting for their life. Just doing my job, Warren said, though the exhaustion was beginning to catch up with him now that the adrenaline was fading. Across the station in the Vrek delegation's quarters, Theric watched the council guard forces surrounding his position. His plan had failed catastrophically. The evidence was out. The council knew about the illegal mining. Worse, they knew he'd tried to murder an ambassador to cover it up. He moved toward his personal shuttle, hoping to reach it before the council could issue an arrest warrant. But when he arrived at the docking bay, more council guard were waiting. Prime Minister Theric, a Luminar officer announced, its crystalline body blocking the shuttle entrance. You are hereby detained pending formal charges of illegal resource extraction, falsification of diplomatic evidence, and attempted murder. Please come peacefully. Theric's mandibles clicked with rage. You have no authority over a sitting head of state. The council disagrees, Praxis said, materializing behind him. Your own government has already been contacted. They are not pleased with your actions. I believe the term they used was immediate removal from office pending investigation. Theric slumped, the fight going out of him. It was over. Back in the destroyed diplomatic suite, Warren finally sat down, his legs giving out. Patricia rushed to his side, examining his burned shoulder with worried eyes. You need medical attention, she said. In a minute, Warren replied. Did we win? Patricia smiled, genuine warmth breaking through the stress and fear. Yeah, Warren. We won. Medical teams arrived moments later, treating Warren's injuries while council investigators documented the scene. As they worked, word spread through the station about what had happened. A human bodyguard had held off nearly 24 armed attackers without killing anyone. A human ambassador had exposed corruption at the highest levels of a major galactic power. The galaxy was learning a lesson it wouldn't soon forget. Humans could fight. But more importantly, they knew when to show mercy. And that combination made them more dangerous, and more valuable, than anyone had realized. The council chamber was completely silent as Chairman Praxis rose to address the assembled delegates. 300 beings from 73 different species filled the massive transparent dome, all eyes fixed on the crystalline figure at the center. Patricia sat in Earth's designated seat, her arm in a sling from minor injuries sustained during the attack. Warren stood behind her, his shoulder heavily bandaged but his posture as alert as ever. This emergency session has been called to address the events of the past 18 hours, Praxis began, his voice chiming through the chamber's acoustic system. Events that have shaken the very foundation of trust upon which this council operates. Holographic displays materialized above each delegate station, showing the evidence Patricia had transmitted. Mining operations on protected worlds. Extraction records. Falsified documents. And most damning of all, communications proving that Prime Minister Theric had orchestrated everything from the illegal mining to the attempted murder of Earth's ambassador. The Vrek Empire stands accused of crimes against council law, Praxis continued. Illegal exploitation of protected worlds. Destruction of irreplaceable ecosystems. Falsification of evidence against a fellow member state. And attempted assassination of diplomatic personnel. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Vrek delegation sat in their section, noticeably smaller than before. Theric was absent, already confined to a holding facility. The interim representatives looked diminished, their antennae drooping with shame. But before we discuss consequences, Praxis said, his tone shifting, we must address a grave injustice. Ambassador Patricia Morrison of Earth was falsely accused, threatened with arrest, and subjected to military assault while under the protection of council neutrality. This council failed in its most basic duty, to protect those who come here seeking peaceful resolution. Patricia felt dozens of eyes turned toward her. She kept her expression neutral, diplomatic, even as her heart pounded. Therefore, Praxis announced, the Galactic Council issues a formal apology to Earth and to Ambassador Morrison personally. We failed you, Ambassador. We allowed prejudice and political maneuvering to override our commitment to justice and truth. The chamber erupted in a complex symphony of sounds, clicks, chimes, whistles, and verbal agreements from species capable of human-like speech. Patricia stood slowly, acknowledging the apology with a slight bow. Chairman Praxis, honored delegates, Patricia said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I accept the council's apology. What happened here was not a failure of the council as a whole, but the criminal actions of individuals who betrayed the trust placed in them. The system worked as intended. Truth prevailed over deception, justice over corruption. A Luminar delegate rose, its crystalline body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. Ambassador Morrison, your grace under pressure is noted. Lesser diplomats would demand compensation or threaten withdrawal from the council. Instead, you defend the institution itself. Because the institution is worth defending, Patricia replied. Earth believes in the Galactic Council's mission. One corrupt official doesn't change that. Another delegate stood, a massive creature covered in thick fur, representing the Carthian collective. The ambassador speaks of institutional integrity, but we must also acknowledge the remarkable actions of her protector. Mr. Warren Blake engaged 23 armed attackers and neutralized all of them without a single fatality. This demonstrates not just combat skill, but extraordinary discipline. Warren remained motionless behind Patricia, his face expressionless. But Patricia could feel his discomfort with the attention. He'd done his job. That was all that mattered to him. Indeed, Praxis agreed. We have reviewed security footage of the incident. Mr. Blake's actions were nothing short of extraordinary. He fought with lethal force available to him, yet chose restraint. Even when facing opponents who showed him no such mercy, he disabled rather than killed. A reptilian delegate from the Saurian Confederacy spoke up, its voice hissing through a translator. This raises questions. We have long believed humans to be aggressive due to their death world origins. Yet here we see the opposite, precise violence controlled by unwavering discipline. How do we reconcile this? Patricia saw Warren's jaw tighten slightly. She knew he hated being analyzed like a specimen. But this was important. The galaxy's perception of humanity hinged on this moment. If I may address that, Patricia said, stepping forward. Humans evolved on a world that taught us violence, yes. But it also taught us when violence is necessary and when it is not. Warren could have killed those attackers easily. He chose not to because the objective was protection, not revenge. That's not weakness, it's strength under control. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this. Many species had encountered humans in trade, in diplomacy, even in minor conflicts. But few had truly understood what made humanity different. They'd seen the aggression, the stubbornness, the refusal to back down. But they'd missed the discipline beneath it all. The Council recognizes Mr. Blake's service, Praxis announced. He will be awarded the Star of Protection, our highest honor for those who defend diplomatic personnel at risk to their own lives. Warren shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Patricia hid a smile. He'd hate the ceremony but he'd endure it. That was who he was. Now we must address the Vrek situation, Praxis continued, his tone darkening. The evidence is irrefutable. 3 protected worlds have been illegally strip-mined. Ecosystems that took billions of years to develop have been destroyed for profit. And when discovery seemed imminent, the Vrek leadership chose murder over accountability. The Vrek interim representative stood shakily. Chairman, the current Vrek government condemns Prime Minister Therek's actions completely. We have already begun proceedings to remove him from all positions of authority. We request the opportunity to make reparations. Reparations will be discussed, Praxis said. But first, sanctions. The Vrek Empire's trading privileges are suspended for a period of no less than 5 standard years. All mining operations are to cease immediately and be subject to council inspection. And Therek will stand trial here on Kepler 7, before an independent judicial panel. The Vrek representative's antennae drooped further, but he nodded acceptance. There was no choice. The evidence was absolute. Furthermore, Praxis continued, this incident has revealed dangerous gaps in our security protocols. Effective immediately, diplomatic immunity will be enforced by Council Guard, not station security. No member state may detain another's ambassador without formal council approval through established legal channels. And any threat to diplomatic personnel will be treated as an act of war against the council itself. Patricia felt relief wash through her. The new protocols wouldn't just protect her, they'd protect every diplomat from every species. Something good had come from this nightmare. A delegate from the Quantum Collective, beings of pure energy contained in specialized suits, spoke through its translator. Chairman, I move that we also acknowledge Earth's rising status within the Council. Ambassador Morrison has proven herself under extraordinary pressure. Perhaps it is time to consider expanding Earth's role in Council operations. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Patricia's eyes widened slightly. Earth had been a junior member of the Council for only 20 years, with limited voting rights and little influence. An expansion of their role would be significant. An interesting proposal, Praxis said. One that warrants serious discussion. Earth has demonstrated diplomatic maturity, technological advancement, and now, remarkable restraint in the face of aggression. These are qualities we value highly. Over the next hour, the Council debated Earth's position. Species that had once viewed humanity with suspicion now spoke in favor of greater Earth involvement. The Vrek incident had transformed perceptions overnight. Humans weren't just stubborn deathworlders anymore. They were skilled diplomats, disciplined warriors, and principled allies. Finally, Praxis called for a vote. All in favor of granting Earth full voting status and a permanent seat on the Security Subcommittee? Lights flashed across the chamber as delegates registered their votes. Patricia held her breath, hardly daring to believe what was happening. A permanent seat on the Security Subcommittee would give Earth real power within the Council, real influence over galactic policy. The motion passes, Praxis announced. 61 votes in favor, 8 against, 4 abstentions. Congratulations, Ambassador Morrison. Earth's voice will now carry greater weight in these halls. Patricia stood, her throat tight with emotion. Thank you, honored delegates. Earth will not take this responsibility lightly. We will continue to advocate for justice, for peaceful resolution of conflicts, and for the protection of all Council members' rights. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out, many approached Patricia directly. Some offered congratulations. Others asked questions about human culture, about Warren's training, about Earth's military capabilities. The most surprising was a group of military observers from 5 different species, all wanting to speak with Warren. Mr. Blake, a Carthian general said, his massive form towering over Warren. Your combat effectiveness combined with your restraint is unlike anything we've studied. Would Earth consider sharing training protocols? Many of us would benefit from understanding how humans achieve such discipline. Warren glanced at Patricia, who nodded slightly. I'd have to get approval from Earth Command, Warren said carefully. But I don't see why we couldn't arrange some kind of exchange program. Excellent, the general rumbled. Perhaps we are not so different, humans and Carthians. We too value strength, but strength controlled by honor. As they finally left the council chamber, Patricia and Warren walked in silence through Kepler 7's corridors. The station seemed different now, less hostile, more welcoming. Delegates they passed nodded respectfully. Some even stepped aside to let them pass, a sign of respect normally reserved for senior council members. We did it, Patricia said quietly. We actually changed how they see us. Warren's lip quirked in what might have been a smile. You did it? I just kept you alive long enough to do your job. No, Patricia said firmly, stopping to face him. We did it together. Your restraint showed them we're not mindless killers. My diplomacy showed them we're not just warriors. Together, we proved humans can be both strong and civilized. Warren nodded slowly. Fair enough. So what happens now? Patricia looked out a viewport at the stars beyond. Now Earth takes its place as a real power in the galaxy. And the Council learns what we've known all along. Humans are at our best when we're protecting something worth protecting. Behind them, in a holding cell, Theric awaited trial. His empire faced sanctions and shame. His legacy would be one of corruption and failure. But from his attempted destruction of Earth's reputation, something unexpected had grown. Humanity's star was rising in the galactic community, and nothing would be the same again. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, the blue curve of the planet growing larger in the viewports. Patricia watched her homeworld with new appreciation. She'd left 3 weeks ago as just another diplomat doing her job. She was returning as someone who'd changed the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. Look at that, Warren said quietly, pointing at the viewscreen displaying the landing approach to Geneva Spaceport. That's not normal. Patricia leaned forward and her breath caught. The entire landing area was packed with people. Thousands of them holding signs and banners. News drones hovered everywhere, recording everything. The welcome committee had clearly gotten out of hand. They're calling you a hero, Warren observed, reading the text streaming across the screen. Both of us, actually. I just did my job, Patricia said, echoing Warren's words from Kepler 7. Warren snorted softly. Yeah, and look where that got us. The shuttle touched down to thunderous applause. Patricia could hear it even through the hall. When the doors opened, the sound became deafening. She stepped onto the ramp, Warren half a step behind her, and was immediately surrounded by camera flashes and shouted questions. Ambassador Morrison. How does it feel to expose the Vrek conspiracy? Mr. Blake. Is it true you fought off 23 armed soldiers? Ambassador. Will you run for Earth's Council leadership? Patricia raised her hands for quiet. Slowly the crowd settled. Thank you all for this welcome. But I want to be clear. What happened on Kepler 7 wasn't about individual heroics. It was about standing up for truth and justice. The Galactic Council recognized that, and that's why Earth now has a permanent seat on the Security Subcommittee. More applause. Patricia continued, we showed the galaxy that humans can be both strong and principled. That we can fight when necessary but also show restraint when it matters. That's the real victory here. Over the next weeks, Patricia found herself at the center of a media storm. Every news organization wanted interviews. She appeared before Earth's Global Assembly to brief them on the Council's decision. Universities offered her speaking engagements. Children dressed up as Ambassador Patricia for costume events. But the most significant changes were happening quietly behind the scenes. Patricia's personal communication terminal was flooded with requests from other Council species. Not for diplomatic negotiations or trade discussions. They were asking for something else entirely. Another one, Patricia said, showing Warren the message on her tablet. They were sitting in her Geneva office trying to catch up on 3 weeks of missed work. The Luminar Collective wants to hire human security personnel for their diplomatic corps. Warren looked up from his own stack of messages. That makes 12 species who've asked. 13 if you count the Carthians, though they're more interested in training than hiring. Can we even provide that many bodyguards? Patricia asked. Earth's special forces aren't infinite. We can't, Warren agreed. Which is why I've been thinking about something different. He pulled up a document on his tablet and slid it across to Patricia. A training program. Not just for humans but for any species that wants to learn human protective philosophy. Patricia read through the proposal, her eyebrows rising. The Interspecies Protection Academy. You want to teach aliens how to fight like humans? Not exactly like humans, Warren corrected. I want to teach them how to think like human protectors. The combat techniques are useful, but they're not what made the difference on Kepler 7. What mattered was understanding the mission, keep you alive and safe, use minimum necessary force, maintain moral authority throughout. Defensive loyalty instead of aggressive dominance, Patricia said, reading from his document. Exactly. Most alien security forces are trained to eliminate threats. Human bodyguards are trained to protect assets. It's a fundamental difference in mindset. Patricia thought about it. Warren had a point. During the Kepler 7 incident, what had impressed the Council wasn't just Warren's combat skill. It was his discipline, his restraint, his absolute focus on protecting her rather than defeating enemies. You'd need approval from Earth Command, Patricia said. And probably the Global Assembly. This would be sharing military training with potential rivals. Potential allies, Warren corrected. The galaxy's changing, Patricia. We just proved humans can be trusted with power. Now we need to prove we can be trusted as partners. Teaching others our protective philosophy does both. 3 months later, the Interspecies Protection Academy opened its doors in a neutral facility on Kepler 7. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The station where Warren had proven human capability was now where he'd teach others to achieve the same standard. The first class was small. 30 students from 15 different species. Carthians stood beside Luminar beings. Insectoids worked alongside mammalian species. Even a Vrek had applied and been accepted, though Warren had debated that decision for hours before approving it. Warren stood before them in the Academy's main training hall, his posture relaxed but authoritative. Welcome to the Academy. I'm Warren Blake, and for the next 6 months, I'm going to teach you how humans approach protective services. But first, I need to correct some misconceptions. He activated a holographic display showing footage from Kepler 7. The students watched as Warren fought against the Vrek soldiers, his movements economical and precise. What you're seeing isn't human aggression, Warren said. It's human focus. Every action had a purpose. Disable the threat, protect the principle, maintain moral authority. I could have killed every attacker in that footage. Would have been easier, actually. But killing wasn't the mission. A Carthian student raised a massive paw. But surely eliminating threats permanently is more efficient? Efficient for what? Warren countered. My job wasn't to win a fight. My job was to keep Ambassador Morrison safe until the truth could come out. If I'd started killing attackers, the Council could have claimed self-defense was actually aggression. We'd have lost the moral high ground and possibly the entire case. The students looked uncertain. This was clearly different from how most of them had been trained. Warren continued, human combat effectiveness comes from our death world evolution, yes. But our discipline comes from something else. Understanding what we're fighting for. A bodyguard who fights for revenge or dominance will eventually become a liability. A bodyguard who fights to protect something they value will move mountains and still maintain ethical boundaries. Over the following months, Warren taught them everything. Hand-to-hand combat adapted for different physiologies. Threat assessment protocols. Crisis decision-making. But most importantly, he taught them the mindset. Protect first, engage second. Minimum necessary force. Never lose sight of the mission. The transformation was remarkable. A Luminar student who'd been trained as an aggressive elimination specialist learned to use their crystalline body defensively, creating barriers instead of spears. A Vrek learned to use their natural armor not to intimidate but to shield vulnerable principles. Even the Carthians, already formidable warriors, learned to channel their strength into protection rather than destruction. News of the Academy spread quickly. Earth's Global Assembly received requests from 42 different species asking for access to human security training. Warren had to turn away hundreds of applicants for the second class simply because they lacked the facilities to accommodate everyone. Patricia watched it all unfold from her position on the Security Subcommittee. Earth's influence in the Council had grown exponentially. She was now consulted on major decisions, her voice carrying weight that would have seemed impossible just months before. But the real change was subtler and more profound. Other species had stopped viewing humans as simply aggressive deathworlders. They saw the full picture now. Yes, humans could fight with devastating effectiveness, but they also knew when not to fight. They could be fierce protectors without being mindless killers. It's ironic, Patricia said to Warren during one of his brief visits back to Earth. Theric tried to destroy our reputation and ended up elevating it instead. Warren nodded, watching news coverage of the Academy's first graduating class. He made a classic mistake. He assumed human strength was our most dangerous quality. He didn't understand that our real power is knowing when to use that strength and when to hold back. The graduation ceremony was held in Kepler-7's main council chamber, the same room where Patricia had been formally apologized to. 30 students stood in formation, representing 15 different species. They'd completed 6 months of intensive training in human protective philosophy and had passed examinations in both practical skills and ethical decision-making. Chairman Praxis presided over the ceremony, his crystalline form glowing with reflected light. Today we witness something new in galactic history. Warriors from different species train not in how to kill, but in how to protect. This academy represents the best of what the Council can achieve: cooperation, mutual respect, and shared values. Each graduate received their certification personally from Warren. When the Vrek student approached, the chamber fell silent. This was the moment many had wondered about. Would Warren, who'd fought against Vrek attackers, really certify one of their species? Warren looked the young Vrek in the eyes. You came here carrying the shame of your people's actions. You could have let that defeat you. Instead, you worked harder than anyone else in your class. You've earned this. The Vrek's antennae trembled with emotion as Warren handed over the certification. Thank you, Instructor Blake. I will prove that not all Vrek are like Theric. You already have, Warren said quietly. The applause that followed wasn't just for the graduating student. It was for what the moment represented: reconciliation, growth, and the possibility of moving beyond past conflicts. As the ceremony concluded, Patricia joined Warren at the front of the chamber. Together, they watched the graduates celebrate with families and friends from across the galaxy. We did something important here, Patricia said. We did, Warren agreed. Showed the galaxy that strength without discipline is just violence. But strength combined with purpose and restraint? That's something worth respecting. Behind them, the holographic displays showed news feeds from dozens of worlds. The story of Earth's rise in the Galactic Council was being told and retold. But the headlines had evolved. They no longer focused on humans as dangerous deathworlders. Instead, they spoke of human warriors who knew when not to kill. Human diplomats who sought truth over advantage. Human protectors who valued life even in the midst of combat. The Vrek conspiracy had tried to prove humans didn't belong in civilized galactic society. Instead, it had proven the opposite. Humans didn't just belong, they had something unique to offer. A combination of strength and restraint, aggression and discipline, warrior spirit and peaceful intent. And as more species sent their security personnel to train under human instructors, as more councils requested human advisors, as more alliances formed with Earth at their center, the galaxy learned a lesson it wouldn't forget. Humans were dangerous, yes. But they were dangerous in the best possible way, willing to fight to protect what mattered, but disciplined enough to stop when the fight was won. That made them not just warriors. It made them peacekeepers. And the galaxy desperately needed both.